Hey guys, some safety measures are so basic, I probably don't even need to tell you about them. Wearing a hard hat, putting on your safety goggles, you know the deal. But day in and day out on the job, you might be doing some things that you didn't even think were dangerous. And sometimes they're not. It all depends on the environment you're in. Like whether or not to tether a tool. Now that's something you don't need to think about when you're on the ground. But when you're working up high, for example, there's no excuse not to. It only takes a minute, and it's worth taking that extra time to do it. Falling objects might not sound like a big deal, but they are. Not tethering a tool properly, or at all, could kill somebody, and they do. In fact, according to OSHA, 5% of all workplace fatalities in the US are due to falling objects. So if you've ever felt like it just wasn't worth the hassle, remember what could happen if you dropped a tool that wasn't tethered. The higher up you are, the more dangerous an object, even a little one, becomes. Take this adjustable wrench, for example. No big deal, right? Well, when it's 30 feet up and falls to the ground, you're looking at possibly filing an injury report. At 60 feet, that's a trip to the ER, days away from work or worse. By 90 feet, less than a pound could be deadly. I know what you're thinking. You're careful. You've got a good grip. It's not like you're gonna drop an adjustable wrench on somebody, but don't be too confident. A lot of things can affect your grip. Things like weather, fatigue, PPE interference, stress, loss of balance, even working against the clock. So slow down, think for a minute, and ask yourself, is this the time to tether? Anytime you're working with a tool, there's a risk that you could drop it. But that doesn't mean you always need to use a lanyard. There are specific times, places, and situations that call for tethering a tool. Things like working up high, when you're working above machinery or an area that would be dangerous if you dropped a tool into it. If you work in food processing or nuclear power, you know what I mean. When you need to make sure you don't leave any tools behind at height. And of course, when you're required to follow FME or FOD procedures. Don't remember what that last one means? Here's a refresher. FME, or Foreign Material Exclusion, is a regulation that keeps foreign materials out of areas where they don't belong. It keeps things from getting contaminated, which is especially important on job sites like nuclear power plants. FOD, or Foreign Object Debris, is a regulation you follow to make sure that nothing gets left behind on the job. You'll see it a lot in the aviation industry. It's always a good idea to check and see if there are any job site rules and regulations where you're working. It's better to be safe now than sorry later. Here at Proto, we know that different situations call for different tethering needs. Sometimes you don't need to tether at all. Sometimes you'll need one kind of lanyard, other times you need a different one. That's why we make a variety of lanyards and tethering tools like elastic, retractable, coil, web, wrist lanyards, and more. Different lanyards are suited for different types of tasks and weight ratings. You should always use the appropriate lanyard specified in the instruction manual. Don't guesstimate. When you're safety obsessed, like we are at Proto, you know to always choose the right tool for the job that you're doing. No modified tools, homemade lanyards, or quick substitutions in a pinch. They could get you or somebody else hurt. The same goes for lanyards. How do you decide? Ask yourself, how are you going to use the tool? How much does it weigh? Follow the instructions that come with the tool and lanyard, including the weight limits. Then, look closer at the tool. Check to see if there's a manufactured attachment point. If not, identify a spot on the tool where you can tether to the lanyard. Different lanyards are better for different points of attachment. Lanyards are weight rated. The shape of the tool, whether it has a straight shaft or is larger at one end, for example, is important when choosing your lanyard. Follow the instructions that come with the tool and lanyard. The lanyard or attachment point must not interfere with tool performance or safety features. Making it easy to reach will help to make your job easier and safer. And once you've decided on the right Proto or Tyfloat lanyard for the job you're doing, you can trust that we've thoroughly tested the system. Working with DROPS, the Global Dropped Objects Prevention Scheme, Proto and Tyfloat are constantly staying up to date on the evolving safety procedures and practices. Once you've found the right lanyard for the job you're doing, if it's from Proto and Tyfloat, you can count on its quality when used with other products. That's because they've been tested as a system for safety. Now, I'm not here to talk about fashion. Tethering is about improving job site safety. I don't care if it goes with your hard hat. Always choose the shortest lanyard possible for the job that you're doing, and then decide where you want to attach the tool, like a nearby anchor point, an appropriate work belt, or your wrist. And consider it in that order. Remember to secure your tools and yourself when traveling to elevated workspaces. Climbing with tools can be dangerous. Always follow job site rules. Prepare before lifting. Limit the tools you carry. Practice good housekeeping. Transfer from the ground up. Keep 100% control at all times. Avoid transferring tools while you're elevated. Secure untethered items in tethered pouches or buckets. Use a transfer system like the Proto Skyhook when appropriate. The Proto Skyhook keeps your tools connected to your wrist or tool belt at all times, even during tool transfer, without interfering with your productivity. It works with all Proto Tether Ready hand tools that weigh less than 6 pounds. Here are a couple other things to remember. Never use a tool lanyard near moving parts, mechanisms, or running machinery. Know where to attach the tool, and this goes without saying, always follow instructions. You'll use a different kind of lanyard depending on the attachment point for the tool you're using. Tape and D-rings are used for creating attachment points at the job site. Their typical weight rating is 2 to 5 pounds, and they're usually only to be used with hammers, wrenches, pliers, and spud wrenches with features that will prevent it from slipping off. High-strength heat shrink is used for tools with geometry, like wrenches and hammers, with a weight rating between 4 and 25 pounds. Heat is required, so apply these at your shop. Tool collar attachments are usually used for screwdrivers, hex wrenches, punches, and spud wrenches weighing up to 6 pounds. PPE lanyards like caddy glove holders and hard hat lanyards keep your personal protective equipment close by when you need them. Proto's Skyhook attaches to your wrist. It's often used with small wrenches and hammers, along with pliers, levels, tape measures, and other small tools weighing less than 6 pounds. It lets you switch quickly from one tool to the next without the risk of dropping them. And it's the only system out there that keeps multiple tools tethered at all times. Wearing a lanyard is one important way to stay safe on the job. But when you don't have a tool tethered to you, there are other ways to protect the tools and people around you. Proto makes a range of products that can help you stay safety obsessed, including tool belts, tool pockets, tool buckets, tool pouches, dropped object kits, and aprons and saddles. So that's it. If you're working in a situation that calls for a tether, use it. There's no excuse not to. Remember, know when to tether. Follow job site rules. Choose the right lanyard for the right tool. Choose the shortest lanyard possible for the job you're doing and attach it to a fixed object if you can. Never use a tool lanyard near moving parts, mechanisms, or running machinery. Always follow instructions. Proto and Tyfloat's tethers have been designed to help you be safe on the job. But it's your job to make sure you're using them, and using them the right way at all times.